The entire kingdom watched as the sweetest florist in the city was sentenced for a crime she didn't commit. Nobody realized the real thief was applauding from the front row. Every spring, the floating city of Luminel held one celebration that every family adored. The Festival of First Bloom. Pastel banners fluttered between cream-colored rooftops. Lavender lanterns floated through the air. Peach-colored petals drifted across cobblestone streets. Children chased glowing butterflies while musicians filled every corner with cheerful melodies. And at the very center of it all stood the city's most beloved flower shop, Marigold and Moss. Its owner was a graceful young cat named Vesper. Her long, silky black fur shimmered beneath the warm morning light, perfectly framing bright emerald eyes that always seemed ready to smile. Everyone knew Vesper. She remembered birthdays. She gave lonely elders free flowers. She secretly left bouquets outside hospital doors before sunrise. If kindness could grow roots, it would probably look exactly like her little flower shop. Unfortunately, kindness also attracts jealousy. Across the plaza stood another florist. Her name was Rosalind. Elegant, polished, always dressed perfectly, always smiling. But her flowers never seemed to bloom quite as brightly. Customers visited her shop, then quietly crossed the street to Vesper's. Rosalind smiled every single time. The smile never reached her eyes. 1 week before the festival, something impossible happened. The kingdom's most treasured flower vanished. The celestial lily. It bloomed only once every 20 years. Without it, the festival of first bloom couldn't begin. The city fell into panic. Royal guards searched every shop, every greenhouse, every garden. Then, one guard stepped into Marigold and Moss. Everyone expected him to leave disappointed. Instead, he emerged holding the missing flower. The crowd gasped. Vesper stared at it. "I've never seen that before." No one believed her. Within minutes, whispers became accusations. Accusations became certainty. She stole it. I trusted her. I bought flowers from her yesterday. I knew nobody was that nice. Funny how quickly strangers become detectives when there's gossip involved. By sunset, the same customers who once hugged Vesper refused to meet her eyes. Children hid behind their parents. Neighbors locked their doors. Even birds seemed quieter. She walked through streets she'd spent years brightening, feeling like a stranger. Inside the palace, Rosalind watched from an upstairs balcony. A tiny smile tugged at her lips. Exactly as planned, Vesper was brought before Queen Magnolia, an elderly silver Persian cat whose wisdom was admired across every province. The queen looked down sadly. "I don't believe you intended harm." Vesper blinked. "You don't?" "No." The queen sighed. "But belief isn't proof." Silence filled the hall. "The evidence was found in your shop." Vesper lowered her ears. "I understand." The queen continued. "Until the festival concludes, Marigold and Moss will remain closed." The words hurt more than chains ever could. That little shop wasn't just her business. It had been her mother's dream. As Vesper stepped outside, a tiny kitten tugged her sleeve. "Miss Vesper." She knelt. "Yes." The little kitten held out a single daisy. "My mom says you're bad." "I don't think flowers choose bad people." Vesper smiled through watery eyes. "Thank you." Sometimes, the smallest voices carry the biggest truths. That evening, rain fell gently over Luminel. Vesper returned to her silent shop. Every bouquet had begun to wilt, not because nobody watered them, but because flowers can sense the hearts that care for them. She wandered into the greenhouse. Rows of pastel blossoms drooped quietly. She rested her forehead against the glass. "I don't know what to do." Nothing answered, until a faint glow appeared beneath one of the oldest planters. She frowned. "That's strange." The planter hadn't glowed before. She carefully moved it aside. Hidden beneath the wooden floor was a tiny brass key, wrapped in faded pink ribbon. Attached was a note, in handwriting she recognized instantly. Her mother's. "If you ever lose everyone's trust, follow the garden beneath the garden." Vesper froze. Her mother had passed away years ago. How could there still be a message? Her paws trembled. She slid the key into a tiny lock hidden beneath the floorboards. Click! The greenhouse floor slowly shifted. Ancient gears groaned. Flower pots gently rolled aside. A staircase spiraled downward into soft golden light. Warm air drifted upward, carrying the scent of jasmine. Vesper whispered, "What is this place?" She descended carefully. Each step revealed glowing vines twisting around ancient stone walls. Crystal butterflies fluttered overhead. Tiny pastel mushrooms illuminated the tunnel. At the bottom, she discovered an enormous hidden garden unlike anything she'd ever imagined. Thousands of flowers shimmered beneath an underground sky filled with glowing stars. Stars, Inside a cave? Impossible. At the center stood an ancient tree. Its silver branches stretched toward the glowing ceiling. Beneath it rested an elderly tortoiseshell cat wearing a gardener's cloak. She looked up before Vesper spoke. I wondered when you'd finally find me. Vesper blinked. You know who I am? The old gardener chuckled. I knew your mother. Vesper's breath caught. You did. She protected this garden. The old cat smiled warmly. And now, she pointed toward the glowing tree. It's asking for you. Before Vesper could answer, one of the silver leaves suddenly turned black. Then another. Then another. The beautiful underground garden grew silent. The old gardener's smile disappeared. Oh no! Vesper looked around. What's happening? The gardener whispered only 4 words. They found us first. A quick pause. Just you and me, around the 14-minute mark. Hey, yes you. You've made it this far, which means you're officially the type of person who says, just 1 more minute, and somehow ends up watching an entire story. We appreciate your dedication to excellent procrastination. If you're enjoying Vesper's adventure, tap subscribe and follow. It tells the creator, please make more stories like this, and it helps more cozy cat adventures find people like you. Now, let's get back before something terrible happens. And judging by that black leaf, something terrible is definitely about to happen. For a heartbeat, nothing moved. Not the glowing butterflies, not the vines, not even the shimmering stars above the underground garden. Every living thing seemed to be listening. Then, a single flower collapsed. Its pastel blue petals crumbled into silver dust before touching the ground. Another wilted, then another. Within seconds, entire rows of blossoms began fading. Vesper's eyes widened. They're dying. The elderly gardener hurried toward the ancient silver tree. No! She gently touched the bark. It's worse than that. Vesper ran beside her. What do you mean? The old cat closed her eyes. The star garden doesn't die naturally. It only fades when someone steals hope from the world above. Vesper frowned. Hope! The gardener nodded. This garden feeds on every act of kindness, every apology, every promise kept, every stranger helping another. Tiny lights drifted upward from the flowers. They become stars. Vesper stared at the glowing particles. So, when people stop believing in goodness, the gardener looked away. The garden starves. Before Vesper could ask another question, boom! The entire cave shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. The glowing lake rippled violently. One of the crystal butterflies fell from the air like a tiny shooting star. What was that? The gardener's ears flattened. They're searching. Far above, Rosalind stood inside her flower shop. She wasn't arranging bouquets. She was tearing one apart, petal by petal. Each blossom dissolved into black smoke. Behind her, hidden beneath a velvet cloth, sat an ancient mirror framed with twisting vines. Its glass wasn't reflective. It looked like liquid night. A deep voice echoed from inside. Did she find the garden? Rosalind smiled. I believe she just did. The mirror laughed. Excellent. The roots will lead us. Back underground. The gardener led Vesper through winding paths lined with glowing lilies. Every few steps, a flower opened as Vesper passed. The gardener noticed. So, it chose correctly. Vesper looked confused. Who chose? The garden. They stopped before a tiny pond. Its water looked like polished glass. Look! Vesper leaned over. Instead of her reflection, the pond showed memories. A younger version of her mother. Laughing. Planting flowers beside the same silver tree. Vesper gasped. Mom! The image smiled warmly. Then spoke. If you're seeing this, I'm gone. Vesper's eyes filled with tears. I miss you. The memory continued. The Star Garden has always needed a guardian. I hoped you'd never have to become one. But if you're here, someone has betrayed the city. The vision changed. A younger Rosalind appeared, standing beside Vesper's mother. Laughing together. Vesper blinked. They were friends. The gardener sighed softly. Once. Years earlier. Rosalind hadn't been jealous. She'd been kind, creative, curious. The two florists dreamed of filling Luminelle with beauty together. Until Rosalind discovered the Star Garden. She wanted to harvest every magical flower, sell them, become famous. Vesper's mother refused. The garden belongs to everyone. Rosalind disagreed. If it belongs to everyone, it belongs to me. That single sentence ended a lifelong friendship. The vision vanished. Vesper stood frozen. So, she framed me. Because she wants this place. The gardener nodded. And she won't stop. Suddenly, a flower screamed. Not with words. With music. Every blossom in the cave sang one haunting note. The gardener's eyes widened. They're here. The cave wall exploded inward. Stone scattered across the garden. Crystal butterflies burst into glowing sparks. 3 enormous vine creatures crawled through the opening. Their bodies twisted together from dead roots. Purple thorns covered their arms. Glowing amber eyes searched the garden. One sniffed the air, then turned toward Vesper. She backed away. They're looking at me. They're looking for the guardian. The creatures charged. The gardener raised her staff. Silver vines erupted from the ground. They wrapped around the first monster. It tore free instantly. The second creature swung a thorn-covered arm. The gardener barely dodged. Vesper grabbed a nearby watering can without thinking. She splashed glowing water into the creature's face. It screamed. Steam exploded everywhere. The monster stumbled backward. The gardener blinked. You used moon water. I what? No time. Run. They raced through winding tunnels. Roots burst through walls behind them. Every pathway shifted. The garden itself was moving, trying to protect them. Vesper noticed glowing flowers blooming ahead wherever she stepped. The monsters noticed too. They stopped chasing randomly. Now, they follow the flowers. They're tracking me. They're tracking the garden, choosing you. The pair burst into an enormous greenhouse hidden beneath the city. Glass ceilings revealed the pastel sunset far above. Thousands of abandoned planters stretched in every direction. The gardener pointed. There! An ancient elevator made entirely of vines. They climbed inside. The doors began closing. A thorn monster lunged. Its claws caught the edge. The vines strained, cracked, snapped. The creatures slowly forced the doors apart. Vesper looked around desperately. There had to be something. Anything. Her eyes landed on a tiny seed pouch. Without thinking, she threw the seeds. They scattered across the floor. Nothing happened. The monster laughed. Then, every seed sprouted. Instantly, massive flowering vines erupted upward. Gigantic pastel blossoms exploded open. The monster disappeared beneath an avalanche of flowers. The elevator shot upward. When they finally emerged, night had fallen over Luminel. The festival lanterns still floated peacefully through the streets. Nobody knew monsters were beneath their paws. Children laughed. Musicians played. Families danced. The city looked perfect. The gardener whispered, "That's what makes this dangerous. The people above have no idea how close everything is to disappearing." Across the square, Rosalind watched Vesper emerge from a hidden greenhouse. She smiled. "So, you survived." A familiar voice echoed from the dark mirror behind her. "Good. The guardian must remain alive until the roots reach the heart blossom." Rosalind's smile grew wider. "They will." Meanwhile, Vesper looked toward her little flower shop. Its windows were still boarded shut. Its sign still hung crooked. Its flowers still waited for her. She took one step forward, then froze. Someone had left a tiny bouquet outside the door. No note, just flowers, fresh ones. She picked them up carefully. Hidden beneath the ribbon was a single message. "We never stopped believing you." Vesper looked around. The streets were empty. Whoever left them was already gone. For the first time since everything fell apart, she smiled. Not everyone had abandoned her. Somewhere in Luminel, someone was quietly helping. And they were about to become far more important than anyone realized. Vesper barely slept. Not because she was afraid, because someone out there still believed in her. She turned the little bouquet over in her paws for the 10th time. Every flower had been picked from different parts of the city. Someone had walked all across Luminel just to gather them. Whoever they were, they wanted her to keep fighting. Morning arrived wrapped in peach-colored clouds. The festival of first bloom entered its final day. Every balcony overflowed with pastel ribbons. The streets sparkled beneath floating crystal lanterns. To everyone else, it looked like the happiest day of the year. Hidden beneath the celebration, roots were spreading. Deep below the city, the ancient star garden shuddered again. This time, several silver branches on the great tree cracked. The elderly gardener closed her eyes. "They've reached the eastern roots." Vesper felt the cave tremble. "How long do we have?" The gardener answered quietly. "Until sunset. If they reach the heart blossom, the entire garden will belong to the mirror." Above them, Rosalind prepared for the festival parade. Every noble in the kingdom admired her magnificent floral display. Dozens of glowing blossoms floated around her carriage. The crowd applauded. Children waved. Nobody noticed. Those flowers had no scent, no life, only illusion. Inside the dark mirror, the shadow smiled. "Tonight, the city celebrates. And tomorrow, it forgets kindness forever." Meanwhile, Vesper wandered through the marketplace, wearing a hooded cloak. She couldn't risk being recognized. Most citizens still believed she was guilty. Yet something strange kept happening. An elderly baker quietly slipped a warm pastry into her bag. A street musician nodded respectfully as she passed. A tiny kitten secretly waved before pretending to tie a shoe when their parents looked over. The anonymous bouquet wasn't the only sign. People had started questioning the story. Not loudly, but quietly. Quiet doubt spreads much faster than loud lies. Suddenly, someone bumped into Vesper. Oh! A stack of books tumbled onto the pavement. The cat hurried to collect them. I am so sorry. Vesper knelt to help. Their paws touched the same book. The stranger looked up, a cream-colored librarian with bright teal eyes. My name's Elio. He smiled nervously. I've been looking for you. Vesper immediately became cautious. You know who I am. I know who they say you are. He lowered his voice. And I know they're wrong. He quickly handed her a folded map. I found something hidden beneath the royal library. Before Vesper could ask another question, he disappeared into the crowd. The map led to forgotten archives beneath the palace. Ancient shelves stretched endlessly into darkness. Dust floated through pale beams of sunlight. The room hadn't been opened in decades. Elio was already waiting. I searched every gardening record I could find. He carefully unfolded a massive parchment. This city wasn't built around the Star Garden. Vesper blinked. It wasn't. No. He pointed toward faded drawings. The city grew because of it. The glowing tree had existed centuries before the first home. The first queens hadn't ruled it. They protected it. Everything beautiful in Luminel flowed from that single tree. Then Elio uncovered another page. His ears lowered. This wasn't supposed to exist. A portrait. Vesper recognized Rosalind immediately. Standing beside the mirror. Only, the portrait was nearly 40 years old. Vesper stared. That can't be right. She hasn't aged. Silence. Neither of them liked the answer. Before they could investigate further, the entire archive shook violently. Books crashed from towering shelves. A loud horn echoed through the city above. The festival parade had begun. The gardener suddenly burst into the archives. Out of breath. They've started. At the exact center of Luminel. Rosalind smiled at thousands of cheering citizens. She gently lifted a magnificent glowing rose. Everyone applauded. Then, she planted it into the center of the festival plaza. The ground cracked. Nobody noticed. The music continued. The crack spread farther. Golden roots burst beneath the streets. Children laughed, thinking it was part of the celebration. Then every lantern in the city went dark. At once, the sky changed. The soft pastel clouds disappeared. Dark vines stretched across the heavens. Gasps echoed throughout the square. The smiling flowers decorating Rosalind's carriage twisted into thorn vines. Citizens backed away in horror. Rosalind no longer bothered pretending. She laughed. Finally, I grew tired of waiting. The mirror rose into the air behind her. Its liquid darkness poured across the plaza. Buildings became gray. Flowers wilted. Color drained from the city. Hope itself seemed to fade. Panic erupted. Vesper ran into the square. Rosalind! Thousands turned. There she is. The thief! No! Another voice interrupted. Wait! The elderly baker stepped forward. I don't believe it anymore. Then the street musician. Neither do I. The little kitten from before squeezed past frightened adults. She helped me. One by one. More citizens stepped beside Vesper. Not because someone told them to. Because they remembered. The bouquets she'd delivered. The gardens she'd restored. The kindness she'd shown when nobody was watching. Rosalind frowned. No. The mirror rippled angrily. They're supposed to hate her. The shadow roared. Make them remember the lie. Dark vines shot toward the crowd. Vesper instinctively spread her arms. The Star Garden answered. Silver flowers erupted through the stone streets. Pastel vines wrapped around frightened families, protecting them instead of trapping them. The entire city glowed. Far below, the heart blossom finally opened. It wasn't red, or blue, or gold. It shimmered with every pastel color imaginable. Its light reached every corner of Luminel. Citizens looked at one another. Forgotten memories returned. The free flowers, the birthdays, the hospital bouquets, the lonely neighbors she'd comforted. The city remembered who Vesper really was. Rosalind stepped backward. No! No! The mirror screamed. She was supposed to be rejected. The elderly gardener finally understood. The mirror only grows stronger when people choose fear over compassion. Vesper slowly walked toward Rosalind. She could have shouted. She could have demanded revenge. Instead, she held out a single flower. Rosalind stared at it, confused. You still forgive me? Vesper shook her head gently. No. Forgiveness takes time. But hatred ends today. The mirror shrieked. Cracks spread across its surface. Its power depended on bitterness. Mercy was something it couldn't understand. The first crack became hundreds, then thousands. With one deafening sound, the mirror shattered into countless glowing fragments that dissolved into stardust. The dark vines vanished. Warm sunlight poured across the city once more. Flowers bloomed everywhere. Balconies, windows, stone walls, even tiny cracks in the pavement filled with blossoms. Children laughed again. The festival bells rang. This time, for real. Royal guards approached Rosalind. She didn't resist. She looked exhausted, as if years of pretending had suddenly become too heavy to carry. The queen arrived moments later. She looked at Vesper. Then the crowd. Finally, she bowed her head. I judged too quickly. I'm sorry. The entire plaza fell silent. A queen apologizing publicly. No one expected it. Vesper smiled softly. Thank you. Weeks later, Marigold and Moss reopened. The line stretched halfway across the city, not because Vesper had become famous, because people wanted beauty to return. Elio became the keeper of the royal archives. The elderly gardener quietly returned to the Star Garden, though everyone suspected she occasionally visited the surface disguised as an ordinary customer. The Star Garden bloomed brighter than ever, not because darkness disappeared forever, but because the people of Luminel finally understood something important. Hope isn't protected by walls. It grows, one kind choice at a time. Epilogue. Late one evening, Vesper locked her flower shop. She noticed another tiny bouquet resting outside her door. No note. She smiled. Very funny. Then she heard tiny giggles. 3 kittens hiding behind a fountain burst into laughter before running away. Vesper laughed too. She picked up the flowers and carried them inside. Above the city, one new star appeared beside the others. The Star Garden had accepted another act of kindness. And somewhere deep beneath the glowing roots, a single unopened bud slowly began to bloom, waiting for the next adventure.